everyone. Dr. Joel here. Today I want to share with you a few techniques to remain calm, clear, and collected under pressure. That's especially important in any time of your life, but particularly important, in my opinion, due to all the change and transition going on in the world around us. Because when you're not calm and clear, then the thinking is clouded because it's dealing with all these anxieties and worries, types of emotions. And thus, when you're not thinking clearly, you tend to make poor decisions with less successful actions. Of course, we don't want that. So these are a few good techniques to have and to use in those situations where you do tend to get upset, so you can return back to being centered, calm, clear, and collected, and be able to make the right decisions at the right time for the best results. Now, 3 of these 4 techniques I'm going to share with you today are what I call body-based. That's because they work first on changing the situation in the body, which in turn impacts the mind. Why is that? Because when you're in a state of anxiety, upset, worry, fear, whatever, the body tends to go into its fight, flight, or freeze response to deal with that perceived danger, whether it's real or not. And when it goes into that fight, flight, or freeze response, it's preparing to deal with that danger, and it clouds your thinking. It's just your thoughts are dealing just with that perceived threat and not with the whole panorama of possibilities that you could make for your best actions and best results. So by having techniques that work on the body first and calming that down, that in turn will calm the mind down. So let's jump right into them. The first technique is what I call nasal breathing. That's a technique where you close your mouth and keep the lips closed, breathing in and out only through the nose and staying that way until you get back to a state of being calm, clear, and collected. And why is that effective? When breathing in and out only through the nose activates a part of your nervous system called the parasympathetic. And when the parasympathetic phase of the nervous system is activated, it in turn sends a signal to all your glands, organs, muscles, etc., that says, hey, it's okay to relax. It's safe to settle down and be calm. And the body parts get that message, and they start changing and settling down. When that happens, that in turn settles the mind down so you can think more clearly and choose the right decisions, and hence the most successful actions. It's that simple. And the beauty of it is that it's so simple yet so effective. I taught this technique to many of my fellow Toastmasters when I was in that organization quite a few years ago, because especially in that situation, for some reason, people get very nervous and anxious about public speaking. But the problem is, when they're anxious, they can't think more clearly and they forget what to say, then they get all flustered. So I taught them this very simple technique, and it works. And more importantly, you can do it whether you're a Toastmaster, public speaker, or not, because it's so subtle. You can do it most any time, any place, and no one will know the difference. That's what makes it so cool. So that's the first technique. Closing the mouth and breathing in and out only through the nose. The second method is also a body-based technique. Very simple one. It's simply body stretching. When you're in a state of anxiety, the muscles and ligaments and tendons tend to freeze up. You tend to contract. This is the body's response. It's protective. And again, when the body gets into that protective emergency response mode, the fight, flight, or freeze syndrome, that clouds the mind. So besides the nasal breathing, I recommend that you also stretch your limbs, your arms out as far as they can go without putting too much strain on them, your legs likewise, your torso likewise. You can bend it to one side, then the other, to relax the muscles, the ligaments, the tendons, and that helps relax the body, and it goes into the same positive response of relaxing the mind, calming it down so you can think more clearly and act more successfully. Now, it so happens I have a personal stretching coach that I see once a week to help me keep relaxed, loose, and limber in my body because, hey, when you're getting older, your body tends not to be so supple. And so I do that with my coach to keep my body just relaxed, whether the situation around me is calm or not. And it helps. I feel deeply relaxed physically afterwards, and thus in a really mellow Zen state of equilibrium. So that is the second technique, body stretching. Another body-based technique is simply using the shower. If you have a shower near you, jump in and wash off. This is another great technique for dealing with feeling anxiety, especially about something that is coming up in the future which you are concerned or worried about. Now, jumping in the shower not only washes the physical body, but it also does a lot of benefit for what's called the subtle energy bodies, sometimes called the aura. If you don't know what the aura or subtle energy bodies are, look it up on the internet and see what it's about. There are subtle bodies in and around the physical body. One of those is called the emotional body. And when you're worried, anxious, upset, the emotional energy body has a lot of discordant energy in it, affecting how you think and feel. So the benefit of jumping in the shower, if you have one available to you, is that the water smooths out those discordant energies in the emotional body, allowing you to feel more centered, calm, clear, and collected. I had a very vivid example of this way back in 1999 when I was about to go to India. I've never been to India at that time and was nervous about it, even though I was going with a friend who had been there and he was kind of my guide. Still, it was a foreign land and some deep-rooted anxieties came up. And I did do nasal breathing, meditation, stretching, and yet I needed something more because this was such a deep-seated anxiety. So my lady friend at the time said, well, jump in the shower, see how that works. And I did, and it smoothed out that anxiety in the emotional body, and I felt a lot calmer and thus a lot more confident about going to a foreign country. So I know that it works. And you only need to shower for a few minutes to have the impact that you are seeking. So that's the third technique, simply jumping in a shower and having the running water smooth out your emotional energy body. The fourth technique is the one mental technique in the series of tools to have available to be calm, clear, and collected now. And the idea here of this technique is what I call the what if mental insurance plan. And that is to come up with some alternative plans ahead of time before some event that you're about to engage in case something unfortunate happens. It's your ace up your sleeve, your fallback plan to use to implement if the worst comes to pass. For example, if you're planning on going on an automobile trip and your car is not in the best mechanical condition and you're worried about it possibly breaking down far away from home, well, what are you going to do? Are you going to freak out? No, you're going to have some plans in place that you can implement, ready to go, so that the alternative plan can make your life a little easier if the worst happens. Who are you going to call? What are you going to do? Have that all in place so that you can relax. It's an insurance plan, so to speak. And that way, you have this fallback plan that you can implement. And you can therefore relax. You don't have to worry about the worst happening, because if it does, well, there's something else you can implement right away and keep on going. Another example is, say you live alone and you're worried what you might do to get help if you're suddenly feeling sick. Your doctor's not available. You're not so sick to go to the emergency room in the hospital. What are you going to do? Well, you're going to have some plans in place. For example, finding out where the nearest emergency care centers are, what hours they're open, and how you're going to get there. So if you know that information in advance, then you can act on it if you start indeed feeling sick. And boom, you can have your health situation taken care of very quickly and thus have a more pleasant experience. So, having these alternative plans available helps you relax, and based on law of attraction principles, you're not dwelling on the worst possible situation so much, and thus less likely to have it manifest in your life, and thus you probably won't even need to use those alternative mental insurance plans, but it's very satisfying to have them available. So my friends, those are 4 techniques to have at your disposal to use: the nasal breathing, the body stretching, the showering, and the what if mental insurance plan available to you to use quickly and forthrightly. Thus, you can live your life in a more calm, clear, and collected way. So, go out and start enjoying life. Thank you.